Howdy folks, my name is Carnright, and today I'm going to do a little boat tour of my 1991 Lund 16-foot aluminum rig. Got it powered with a 20 horse Mercury, a 1986 motor on the back, and I'm running 3 Lowrance big screens on it, and it is loaded to fish. I've been running this boat for 10 years. I did a little bit of modification to it 2 years ago, and it's been an absolute beast of a boat for Lake Champlain, a couple other smaller lakes. Today is actually my last day with this as my primary boat. I'm rolling out to Weedus Marine in Kentucky tomorrow, and I'm picking up a Phoenix 721 with a 250 Pro XS on the back. Brand new rig, custom ordered it. Really excited. So, starting on the back of my rig, I got a 1986 20 horse tiller steer Merc. This motor has been a beast for me. I've been running it for 3 years. I bought it, this will be actually my 4th year with it. I bought it used from some guy. It had been sitting. I blew the original 91 that the boat came with and picked this thing up for a pretty good price compared to rebuilding the old motor. Only running tiller steer on the aluminum rigs. I'm not a fan of console on aluminum. I got the stickers taken off it. I like the way it looks, just blacked out. On the top of the motor, I've got my suction cup mount where I shoot all my videos from. It does really well. I've got a tether on the back with a hole I drilled through the top of the motor, a little 1/4 inch hole or so. And I haven't had that cup fall off yet in like about a year. And I trailer with it on the highway like this. Never had it come off, so I'll be doing the same thing with my new boat. Strapping that to the motor. I'm not going to put the tether on it, but just suction cup should be fine. Got a 13 pitch soulless aluminum prop on there. Costs about $80 probably. I've gone through 3 or 4 of those props in the last few years, and not really big on spending $200 on a prop for this boat because it tops out around 23 miles an hour and performance isn't a big issue. I got my Quicksilver gas tank. I've had that gas tank for forever. I've replaced the hoses. Oh yeah, another thing with this Merc, whenever I bought it, the fuel lines were rotted out from the ethanol. It sat for at least probably 2 years, and so I had to replace the fuel lines. I had some pretty bad issues with it stalling out the first couple months. I replaced everything and got it cleaned up, and it's been running like a top ever since. I estimate over 1,000 hours on it in 3 years since I got it. And I haven't had an issue with it probably in 2 years. I run it for 12 hours a day nonstop, sometimes graphing, 6 hours maybe full wide open, and then another 6 hours of idling and days, and I do that for a couple times, maybe a month on this motor, so it adds up quick. 250 or 300 hours a year. That's about it for the motor. This is all on my back deck, is all custom work that I did with it 2 years ago. I replaced the entire flooring of the boat. The original flooring was all rotted out, and I'll just do a shot of the whole boat, and it replaced it, pressure treated wood, marine grade plywood, the expensive stuff, but it's well worth it if you want it to last. I've got this battery box that I put in here, the angled aluminum to make it, and then bolted on the wood. 2 Everstart 29s. These batteries are a year old now, I think. Really good batteries. It pulls my boat like almost 3 miles an hour. My trolling motor does. So, and the batteries are good. I ran the last pair for 3 years. and I just replaced them last year. I've got another battery. I'll talk about this. This is how I charge my camera on the water all day. I've got a 120 adapter, like a car charger, basically. 120 volt AC coming out of here, 12 volt DC here. Keeps my battery charged, or my battery on the camera charged all day, and my phone as well. You need that on the water. You need to have a full phone battery for sure. Back here I've got, this is another custom compartment I put in. Aluminum again, angled aluminum. I've got 127 battery back here, EverStart again. I'm running all three of my graphs on this one battery, my livewell, my bilge, my lights, everything off this one battery. Keep my oil back here. I don't use Haveline, this is just I funnel with that. I got my funnel, my oil over here. I use Quicksilver Merc oil. Funnel it into there. It's a lot easier to measure out because I have to pre-mix. Got my Atwood compartment latches on here. Holds those lids down. Looks good. Talk about the my seat. My seat back here. It's a bassboatseats.com folding chair. It's a really good seat. I've had it for I think two full seasons I've used, or maybe 3, and it's been out in the weather a lot, and I don't think I've ripped it yet. It's got a little rip right there, probably from a hook, but it's a really good seat. I'd highly suggest buying them. And I've got one of their pedestals under there that's adjustable. The original pedestals I had, my seat would hit that battery compartment, so I had to get these that would raise it up a little bit. It's got one little rope, 6-footer in here. Talk about I'll put this rod over here. I got my save face in here. It's really cold out. It's April 2nd right now. And I live in New York on Lake Champlain, so we just had a break in weather, and it's finally starting to get a little warmer. It's highs of warmer, I say 40 degrees, 40, 50 degrees. The lake just thawed out a couple weeks ago, probably a week ago. Not going to talk about my graphs yet, but I've got this compartment. I put this storage in here when I redid the boat 2 years ago. I've got this is like a catch-all, I guess you'd say. It's like those center compartments, but I got my life jacket. I got my line. I use Bass Pro XL. Got a bunch of pounds here, but it's a really good line for monofilament. I never break fish off with that line. I just don't know how people can kind of bash on it, because I think it's an awesome line. I use it all the time. But I got my Sims. I got a buff here. Sim sun sleeves. I've got a couple pairs of those. I really like those. I got gloves. If you wear gloves like these in the winter, you put a pair of medical gloves over them. Keep your hands dry. Keep them warm and dry. If you just wear gloves like this, your hands get wet, as most people probably know. After half an hour, your hands are wet and cold. But you wear these, and they rip pretty easily, but you'll probably get a couple hours out of them. If you're catching them pretty good and stuff, they don't last as long, but they're good to keep the water off your hands. You put your hands right in the water, and your gloves don't get wet. My fire extinguisher in there, some sunscreen. I don't wear that all the time, but I should. That's why I like the sun sleeves and stuff like that. Yeah, but I've got the aerator. Quick care for your Merc. Huge believer in this stuff. The stage 1 and 2. This is the stage 1 field treatment. Stage 2, the quick clean, I think it's called. Run that through your gas. 1 ounce for every 5 gallons. I can go like a month on one bottle, and it's going to save your motor, I'm sure. a big believer in it. I got some water in here. I've got a PVC pipe system to run my my power cables for my Lowrance up front, back to the back, and then I've got another PVC pipe here that runs to this battery back here. It's really good for pulling wires. Side of my livewell right there, I've got a recirc pump. I put that in last year. Save my small mouse from dying. Put this stuff back. Okay, talk about my, actually I'll talk about the livewell first before so I just got, this is the original livewell. It came with the boat. It's a pike boat. So it's got this longer livewell, big open area. You know, it's not really set up for bass fishing, but I've changed it quite a bit. So it's got a single pump in, and it's got just a single recirc that I put in. I got my coal balls in there. I usually fish club tournaments out of this boat sometimes. It's good. So I'll talk about my electronics. I just bought this a couple months ago, my Gen 2 HDS 12. Never been on the water yet. I bought this right after I ordered my boat because I got a dual mount on the dash, and I wanted 2 graphs, and I wanted the 12. I had the extra money, so I bought it. It's a pretty legit graph, and I've been running. This is the graph I've been running in the back for the last 2 years. It's a HDS 10 Gen 2. I've got the structure scan for it, and I have it linked. They're all linked up to that graph on the front. I started out 3 years ago, I think, with just one HDS 10 on the ram mount, like this. I can spin it around when I didn't have anything up front and I could see from the back. I'd rather have one big unit and buy another unit in the future than have 2 smaller ones that I'm going to want to sell whenever I have money for the bigger one. So I went all out and bought big screens. The 12 is I just threw it on here with the 10 because I've been messing with the settings and stuff, but I probably won't really be using this boat much after I get my new one. So, but it's a pretty legit setup back here. I can run structure scan, full side imaging on one unit, and then map in 2D sonar on the other, which will be really nice. I have been running all 3 on one screen, which is fine. And when you're exploring new water, it would be nice. It's nice to have the 3 screens, but when you're basically just looking for fish, one graph is fine, especially if you know where you're at. I don't use side imaging quite as much as I originally used to because I know what's there. I don't fish anything besides really deep rock on and there's nothing man-made here, so mainly just I'm using mapping and 2D sonar. But I've got them, like I said, networked to my 10 up front. I originally just had the 110 back here. I used that for a year. I'd flip it around, and then I saved up and bought the 10 for the front, and I've been running the 2 10s for 2 years, which has been perfectly fine. You could get away with 2 5s. You don't need to have the really expensive units, but they're nice to have, and I love the Lowrance big screens compared to the smaller ones. I'm kind of obsessed with them. So I'd power those on, but I'm afraid we'll be on mapping and it might show some waypoints. You know what I'm saying? But keep my covers on them. A lot of people don't like the ram mounts because they bounce around too much, and I completely agree. On a boat like this, though, these ram mounts are fine. And as long as you leave them like this, when you're not using them, loosen them up, let them lay on the deck, the ball will it'll lose its imprint, and then tighten it back down, and I can get that thing pretty rock solid. It's not going to move, but I'm only running 20 miles an hour, so if you're running 70, it's a big difference. So I'm not going to have ram mounts on my new boat. It's going to be completely rough waterproof. Break too much stuff if it's not locked down completely. Alright, so talking about my rods, I've got a few. I just rigged them up today to get ready to go fishing on Tuesday. I got 5 or 6 or 7 rods probably there for the spring. I've got this pretty cool deal up here that I had to put in for my rod tips because the rods are too long to just lay here, and it protects them. People step on them and stuff like that. People that aren't used to being on boats, so it's good. And I use these Duck It Ghost rods. Are really nice for $100. They're just as nice as like $200 or $300 rods I've used. If I like them even better, I buy whatever I really like, and that's what I really like, and it's cheap price wise. Same thing with my reels. I have, I think, 9 of these Pro Qualifier reels from Bass Pro Shops for $100 retail. Sometimes they're on sale for like 60. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. Some of these reels are like 4 years old, and I use them a lot, and they don't break or anything. I throw a frog with them. I throw everything with them. Cranking rod. This is probably, I go a little bit more with this. The Tor KVD cranking rod. If KVD uses it for cranking, I'll use it for cranking. I really like it. All I do is crank with it. 1.5. That one's seen better days. That's probably a 3-year-old crank, and it has caught him. I'll tell you that. Look how beat up that. The bill's all busted up. It's ground down really pretty good, and it still runs true, and they eat the snot out of it still. So I still use it. They like these beat up cranks. They catch them better on it compared to a new one. But Quantum Tor PT reel, probably the best reel I have, and it's 5 years old. Really smooth, but $200 reel. They don't even make them anymore. They're hard to find. But if I could get my hands on some more, I'd probably buy them that weren't used. Up here, I got quite a bit of room in here for walking around. You know, it's especially my front deck. I got a pretty big front deck. It's modified quite a bit from the original. My original deck went up to this lid right here, and I extended it back with some angled aluminum, and I also raised the deck 6 inches, which is quite a bit compared if I would have went 8 inches, I'd be almost up to the gunnel back here. So 6 inches is a huge difference compared to how it used to be. I've got this, actually this is, talk about the pad, I've got a ProTech, I think it's ProTech marine pad. It's the same pad I think Ranger uses on their boats, and I've had it for 2 years. It's really comfortable. The back down here is not padded, and you can totally tell the difference, especially barefooted. Yep, got the whole pad up front, 24 ounce bassboatseats.com carpet. It's really good, really nice carpet. For 24 ounces, about as thick as you're going to find. I've got a little storage bin right here. I put this in when I redid the boat, and I keep my tackle in these containers from their Walmart. Like, I don't know what they are. They're Sterilite, but they're pretty small things. They're like $3 a pop. I keep all my baits in the original packaging until I use them, and I can fit 9 of these. They stretch all the way down through the side. I stack them about 3 high. Beavers, I got my jigs down there, and then I've got room for this 1 box right here of hard baits that I've used and haven't lost yet. I got some Sexy Dogs. I got some Lucky Craft Sammys here. Jerk baits. Strike King. I use a lot of Strike King baits. I use their jigs, their cranks, basically all their hard baits. That red eye shad's caught them really good. probably 500 on that so far, if not more. I like these. I like a lot of the crawfish or the bluegill patterns or sunfish pattern. Not really bluegill, but gizzard shad. Of course, the blackback chartreuse. This one's my favorite color, gizzard shad. Does really well here in Champlain. That gives you a good look at my old deck. Was right there, and you can see the PVC pipes. I've got my wires running through up there. Maybe you can see them, but maybe not. Another little box up here. I usually keep my terminal tackle in one of those, but I've got a Lund carpet graphic made by Iguana Graphics, Bass Boat Central sponsor. He made that for me 2 years ago, and it's seen better days. It's kind of beat up and split along the, in spots, but I walk all over it, and it looks really good. I actually get a lot of comments on it. People don't really seem to care much about the whole boat itself, but they look at that graphic and they go, "That's pretty cool." I'm like, "Yeah, it is." But I got I don't know how big this front deck is, but I can fit 2 people up here for aluminum boat, 16-footer. It's got I can fish up here comfortably, and I've got a lot of room back behind me. Probably do some break dancing up here if I wanted to. For a trolling motor, I'm running a Minn Kota Maxim. It's one of the newer style Maxims, 70-pound thrust, and it's been through hell and back. It gets really beat up here, and it's yet to break. I actually broke the prop shaft off, got that fixed a couple years ago, and it's been running flawless ever since. It's pretty torn up. I run it over the rocks like crazy. I got my Ninja Grass Blade. Shout out Steve Lucarelli for making that thing. The best $30 I've ever spent. Keep your trolling motor running in the thick grass. It really does what you'd think it would do down there. Catches grass on it and chops it up like a machete. Probably should have 2 on there, but just got the one on here right now. I'll get one on my new boat as well. Got my transducer cable running right up the mount of my trolling motor. Pretty clean install there. Breeze S foot pedal. I had to make that out of the aluminum, frame that in before I even had the boat together. Had to guesstimate, center it about where it needed to be, and it worked out perfect. I got really lucky. It's just wide enough for that trolling motor pedal. It's almost probably another 1/4 of an inch, and I wouldn't be able to. I'd be hitting, and the pedal wouldn't be able to move as freely, but it's wide open. And what's cool is I can pinch my markers and stuff. Like I've got these scissors in here stuck. I can stick them in there, or pliers, so they don't bounce around. And I've got my cable running right down through that little cover. I've got another graph up here. I just use a single unit. Thinking about getting one of those Helix 12s for bow 360 on my new boat also, but for now I'm running an HDS 10 Gen 2. I've got it on a ram mount. This once again, it doesn't bounce around too much at all if I crank it down. My new boat, I'm gonna have a precision sonar bridge mount, so I'm not gonna have to worry about it bouncing around at all. I've got it. I've got these. What is it? The rod glove. I cut it in half. Put one on there for my cables, just so it cosmetically looks good. And I've got it on the back too, along with one of these little plates. I forget what they're called, but they're just the ram mount base. Actually, it was like $20, and it really makes the install look clean. But yeah, I love these Lowrance units, man. They're awesome. I have to pull it over to the side, and I can open up my little compartment up here in the front. I got my raincoat in there, and I got my throwable life jacket. But yeah, I wear a Bass Pro qualifier rain suit. I think that rain suit is like 5 or 6 years old, and it's still like works like brand new. Doesn't leak at all. It's a great rain suit. But yeah, that's about it for the rig. I've got a little view from just standing up here. I've got my battery chargers back there too. I just have 2 chargers for it. I should have 3, but I've just got the 2. And alright, so I'll talk about my the outside of the boat a little bit. It's pretty beat up. The hull's cracked right now. It broke last year too. I got it fixed, and it lasted a full year. I had it welded. Then it finally broke again last year. So right now you can't even run it on the lake. It just fills up with water, like hundreds of gallons within a minute. So I'm gonna have to try to get it welded again if I feel like running it. More than likely, it's probably not gonna happen right now, at least. Yeah, I've got blue water LED navigation lights on it. Pretty cool little upgrade over the original lighting that's on it. That was originally on the bow. I think it looks better, a lot cleaner, and it's a lot brighter too. The trailer's it's actually got blue water LEDs on the bottom of it. I've got, I think, 6 strips, 30 LEDs. I have 4 of those, and then I have 2 60 LED strips. They're white. I had them hooked up through my trailer lighting bracket into my truck, and I had a switch in the truck that I could turn them on and off with driving down the road or at the ramp, and they're pretty sweet for loading at night, and they look really good. This fender's broken right now. The other one broke a couple of years ago. Had it welded back together. This one I just haven't had welded yet, but the electrical tape holds it well for now. I'm running some Tractor Supply Company tires and rims. I like those white ones. I used to have gray, but I can usually get about 1, maybe 2 years out of a set of tires on this trailer, and then they wear right through down to past the tread, and I'm lucky I haven't blown any tires yet. But the whole, it's been welded, like I said. You can actually see it weld right here. The crack is right down the center along that bottom ridge. You can't see it unless I go underneath there, but yeah, it's the boat. The trailer's, I think, in 1998. I'm going to talk, actually I'll show you my, I got LED lights back here, my brake lights and stuff, but my lower unit, my transducers, I got my 2D right here. It's in a perfect spot. I can see, when I'm on plane running wide open, I can still keep good bottom contact. I'm not running a through hull, so it's a little bit harder, but it's set up perfect right there for me. I can actually see fish running wide open. I can run over rock piles and tell if there's fish there if I need to slow down and check it out, which is pretty good. And then I've got my structure scan transducer. You can tell it's not hanging off the back. I've got it underneath the hull on a bracket, a steel bracket, and it's right in the path of the water. You can actually see while running about 15 miles an hour. I can tell if there's rock piles like 100 feet away from the boat. It's not clear, but you can see the distinction between underwater points and stuff, which is really cool. if you have an aluminum rig and you want structure scan, you don't have any jack plate or anything, you don't have enough room to your signal will hit the lower unit. If not, you gotta mount it underneath. I highly suggest doing this. I'm looking 200 feet. I would say in 20 feet of water, I can throw out to 200 feet to both sides and see clear without having any of that, the black distortion that you get when you get out too far. I got a really good setup back there. Compared to most people, they don't have as good image quality as mine. Mine's definitely top of the line. It's mounted perfectly and got a good transducer. But yeah, other than that, I mean, another shot of the boat. I don't think I talked about that's a snowmobile helmet. I wear that in the winter for tournaments and stuff. It gets cold in the morning. Sometimes it's close to 0 degrees when we launch, especially like November. But yeah, it's the rig. For any of you guys that like your beer, this is what that's the good stuff there. Labatt Blue Canadian, straight from Canada, right on the border. You can't get that stuff in the United States. You gotta go into Canada to get it. And anybody that drinks Canadian beer knows what I'm talking about. Especially the Molson or Labatt Blue. It's way better when it's right out of Canada. So, yep, that'll about do it.